Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to today's Captive Review virtual symposium on diversity and leadership. For those who don't know, my name is Lauren Ingram, and I'm the editor of Captive Review. Today, we're partnering with Seeker to bring you a panel talking about diversity and leadership, which is personally a topic I am very passionate about. I think in the captive industry, there's something that we've done a lot about in terms of diversity and leadership, but it's something that we can do a lot more. And this is going to be a fantastic panel. But before I introduce the panel and let them talk all about that, there is some small bits of housekeeping. If you've attended one of our symposiums before, you'll know that we use the website Slido to run polls and let the audience submit questions. So if you go to slido.com and put in Captive Virtual, you can vote in the polls for this session, and we have two. And you can also submit questions for the Q&A at the end. As I mentioned, today we're partnering with Seeker to bring you this panel on diversity and leadership. I want to introduce Renee Louie, who is both on the Seeker Executive Committee and Vice President of Pro Group. Renee is going to speak a little bit about Seeker and what they're doing in the diversity and leadership space, which I know includes Amplify Women and the Next Gen Committee. And she's also going to be our moderator for the panel today. So thank you so much, Renee, and I'll hand over to you.
Well, good morning, Lauren and everyone. And as you say, good afternoon and good evening, depending on where you might be. We have a really great morning planned for all of the listeners today, and we're so happy that all of you are here. I am glad to be here and to be partnered with Captive Review on today's virtual symposium. I hope everyone listening is healthy and doing all that you can to stop the spread of COVID-19 and being safe. As Lauren said, my name is Renee Louie. I am Vice President of Pro Group Captive Management Services. I serve on state and national boards, but most importantly today, I serve on your Seeker board and your Seeker Executive Committee. For people who don't know what Seeker is, Seeker stands for the Captive Insurance Companies Association. And we are the premier domicile neutral trade association for the industry globally, not just onshore or offshore. Our mission is for Seeker is to provide the best source of unbiased information, knowledge, and leadership for captive insurance decision makers. That doesn't sound like much, but it's a tall task, I'll tell you. I'm proud to be a Seeker board member and on the executive committee. Pro Group's been a member of Seeker for nearly 20 years, and in all that time we have always looked and it received value and that all that it brings to the industry. You know, serving on the board and the executive committee over the past few years, I see firsthand every day how hard Dan Toll, our president, works every day to take our industry to the next level and to keep the conversation going and ensuring that the industry is healthy, while ensuring that Seeker has a seat at the table, so to say, on all the key issues facing us. I also see how dedicated the Seeker staff is daily to our industry. And as a board member, I work often with them, and the executive board works with them, sometimes daily. And they are some of the top professionals in the industry, and we thank them for all their hard work. Most of you likely know that we recently had to cancel our annual conference due to the pandemic. In fact, the Seeker conference has the distinction, unfortunately, not really fortunately, of being the very first insurance conference to cancel because of the coronavirus. At that time, we had to make that very difficult decision. And I look back on that day, and we had limited data, but we gathered as much data as we could at the time. And we knew we had significant risk and that the attendee safety was our top priority. Many of you know that the annual Seeker conference is the culmination of efforts of so many volunteers throughout the year. And it's a celebration of best practices, and it also brings top shelf educational sessions and as well incredible network opportunities. While it was difficult to have to cancel the conference, we were so early on there in March. The good news is that Seeker is very excited and proud to announce that most of the great educational sessions that you would have attended at the annual conference are going to be available through on-demand webinars online. We will have more than 20 sessions when all of them are completed and recorded. I hope that you've seen through LinkedIn and other social media and through direct communication through your SICA membership, through emails from Dan and the staff, that there are already sessions up and running that you can play on demand. I encourage you to register for them, as they will be a perfect way for you to access relevant and up-to-the-date captive education, and if not even just that as well, but that there's continuing education credits good for these almost all of the sessions. Shruti said something to be very interesting to me last week into this group when we were planning this session for you today. And she said, no one really plans to be in the captive industry, and then no one leaves. It's just a great place to be. And that really, really, really struck with me and hit home with me. I think everyone that I talked to at SICA and other conferences and on the phone and people we do business with said, I never planned to be in the captive industry. I kind of fell into it by accident. And they're still here today. So we have to agree that this industry is innovative, it's creative, it's diverse, it's global. Nobody can dispute that. It can constantly adapt to market changes. Welcoming others in is what we do well. We entice and excite people to come into the industry. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that today. And we also get to learn constantly. SICA's made a strong commitment to supporting the growth and the vitality of the captive industry. SICA has previously launched a mentorship program. And this has been through several different ways, including an essay contest focusing on college students in risk management and drawing them into the captive space. It was a very unique and very creative way to get them involved. And it was a really great thing that first year, and it continues on today. These are programs that help support awareness of our industry and also to help those in our industry through mentorship, which can be key to career growth. The more that they are involved with our industry and our conferences and our people, the more excited they get to maybe stick and hang around. SICA is also very proud to lead the effort on two important initiatives that we are going to discuss today. We all know that we are an aging industry, not me, of course, right? Right, ladies? Not us. And that we need to transfer the talent to the next wave of captive leaders. It's more important than ever. Where are they? How do we find them? How do we recruit them? How do we get them here? SICA is making sure we have qualified and interested professionals that have the tools and support and be that next generation of captive insurance leaders. I encourage you to get to know our Next Gen and our Amplify Women committee members. They're a great group of focused, dedicated, energetic individuals. And they've been focused on raising awareness of the captive industry with future young professionals and women, providing networking and career building opportunities for today's professionals. We even have some award winners on the panel today, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Last summer, when SICA launched the Amplify Women, one of our goals was to have more opportunities for women speakers at our conferences. Had our conference occurred this year, I'm excited to tell all of you that over 40% of our scheduled SICA speakers were women. Congratulations, SICA. That was a bold move. We know this will set the mark high, and we encourage our state association partners and to see what the opportunities are that you can create for women speakers. The Amplify Women Task Committee has been working hard as well. They've been generating quarterly newsletters, and they're working on opportunities for recognition of women, for industry awards, and for speaking roles and opportunities at their industry conferences. They're doing a great job in helping to share the success of women in our industry, and you will be hearing more about their initiatives very shortly. So I'm very excited for that. For those of you that are just coming on and joining, good morning. We're just getting our introduction started here. We are also talking about Next Gen and Amplify Women. So welcome to the call. I see some of you coming in now. I look forward to being a really good part of today's educational session and hearing from our panelists. You know, we did all get to visit last week, and what they have to say today, you're going to be very impressed by. With that, I'd like to introduce you to the panel. Erin Hackett is Senior Audit Manager at Crow. Erin, good morning from Vermont, I believe.
Yes, that's right. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. And Jeanette Fowler, Director at Madison Scottsdale. Good morning. Where are we seeing you today?
I am in Phoenix, Arizona, Scottsdale, and enjoying some nice weather. It's good to be with you all today.
Good morning. And we have Shruti Viez, Captive Manager of SES Satellites. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Renee. Good morning to all our listeners who are joining us from different locations. I'm good, thank you. And I'm joining from Luxembourg.
Good morning. And Karen C., Program Manager, Fiat Lux of University of California, I believe coming from her home today. How are you, Karen? Good morning.
Good morning, Renee. Thanks for having me.
We're so excited. You guys have put a lot of work into this, and I'd like to get right to it. We'd like to start off with a poll of all of our listeners, of all the participants. If we could put up our first poll. And if you have not already, you can type on your computer or your smart device, your iPhone, your Android, your iPad, anything you want, and go to slido.com and type in /captivevirtual. And the hashtag's already there. So if you just type in captive virtual, and you're going to see the first question there and the second question there. And the first question is how long you've been working in the captive insurance sector. Super easy kickoff question. And we have less than 5 years, 5 to 10 years, 10 to 20 years, and 20 plus years. Right now, less than 5 years looks like it's taking the board, you guys. Look at that. So we have a lot of newer folks to the industry on the call today, and that's pretty exciting. The second question is, and it's right there on your screen, you can answer both of them right away. When recruiting new captive professionals, how much experience do you look for? This is a great question. Where do you get your captive education? How do you find somebody who already has a captive education? Will your hiring department provide them with all the relevant training when they're looking for those to hire? Are you requiring a relevant degree and qualifications? Are you looking for some level of experience in commercial, insurance, law, or other relevant field to be considered for a job that you might be offering in the industry? Or we only hire individuals with captive insurance background. I don't think anybody could really vote for we only hire individuals with captive insurance background. I'd be interested if someone did. It looks like now some level of experience is required by about 42%, and of course that can change. We've got 24 folks voting. I'd like to see all 65 of you on the call right now to come in if you could. It's very, very simple. You don't have to register. You don't have to sign up for anything. Just simply go to slido.com and type in captive virtual. You'll see the two questions. You'll hit your answer and you'll hit submit. It's very, very simple. So, ladies, I'd like to kick off the discussion while folks are voting and coming into the call and waking up this morning or getting ready to end their day, depending on their time zone. I'd like to kick off the discussion today and talk to you about several things. The first thing I'd like to talk about is recruiting and retaining millennial talent. This is a really hot topic, and Jeanette, I'd like to tap you as a veteran in the industry and tell me your thoughts on that. And then I want to go over to Karen and have her tell us specifically, if we were to recruit her today, how we would do that exactly and how we would appeal to her to come into this industry. And Jeanette, take it away.
Well, thanks, Renee. I appreciate it. And thanks to everybody that's participating this morning. You know, it's an interesting question, and you touched on earlier that I can't think of a person I know of in the industry that by design ended up where they're at in the captive insurance industry. And you just kind of accidentally fall into it. And I think that really gets to the core of, you know, why we're here today. I think if you look at the numbers, and I think that's the nutshell of our industry, right, is looking at the numbers and coming up with answers on how we're managing risk. But I think we really need to look at the numbers and say, look, what are we actively doing to manage and mitigate this accidental participation in our industry? And I think those answers lie in, you know, the industry waking up and realizing a while back that they had a huge talent void. You saw the polling numbers that showed You know, we have a large number of new entrants into the captive industry, which gives me hope that hey, we're backfilling that quickly, but we have a lot of ground to make up, because I think we just woke up one day, we were so busy innovating and managing our risks that we forgot where the talent was going to come and take our place when we finally decide, hey, it's time to retire. And so I think we need to start sooner. I think we need to look at communicating our message and educating young people about the industry in a different way. And what I mean by that is, when I was in college, you know, the way that you learned about different opportunities is you went to a job fair as you were in your, you know, junior and senior year of university, and kind of walked around the room, you know, within the realm of field that you were studying, but you certainly didn't have an insurance program at that point in time. And not many people knew that was an exciting and innovative place that you could take your career. And I think today, if we look at the answers, really are right in front of us. If you look at how young people are communicating, connecting in this world with social media and technology, I think we need to start doing a better job of educating young people about the opportunities in what I think is perceived as a really old and stodgy, boring industry historically. But when you look at captives in particular, I think we are the most innovative and exciting professions that you could go into right now. If you think about what's going on out there in the way of AI and companies that are reinventing how we underwrite risk, how we manage risk, the captive industry is at the forefront of that. And so I think getting into the classroom directly in front of students, not just at a college level, I think you have to start younger than that. I think you need to go, you know, just like we have bring your parent to work day in schools, I think you need to start in high school and educate young people on the exciting things that are happening in our industry, particularly on the technology side, which is where there seems to be a lot of focus right now with young people. And I think in doing that and kind of bridging that education gap and understanding gap of what opportunities lie in this industry, that we're not just shuffling papers and we're a necessary evil of when you learn how to drive, you've got to get car insurance, and when you rent your first apartment, you've got to get renter's insurance. We're so much more than that. But I think the perceptions have definitely been changing over time. I think the industry on the whole, particularly the captive industry, has made great strides in that realm. And I'd be curious to hear, Karen, your perspective on that, with you know, your generation and a wonderful representative of the next gen. But I'd be curious what you think about that, Karen.
Yeah, I think tagging along what Anjanette just said, I actually agree with the fact that, you know, telling a story or sharing your personal journey is really refreshing for somebody, for example, like me personally, who did not have any insurance background or in risk management or didn't major in it. You know, it would be refreshing to hear someone, you know, share how they fell into the industry per se, you know, and how they made it what they wanted to be. They made a career out of it. In particular, and I think in captives, I've learned coming into it that was one of the things that really hooked me. And in terms of, you know, then being exposed to more, you know, day to day, you know, you're bound to find something that you excel in or you're passionate about, just because there's so many different facets and, you know, various professions within the industry actually that you're not usually just straight out educated about. And so I think it really does, that personal story really does make a difference in terms of allowing you to recruit from, you know, a pool of individuals, pool of graduates, you know, with different backgrounds, with different majors, and ultimately different perspectives. And so interestingly enough, from a millennial perspective, I guess you could say, I find that recruiting and retaining talent, actually, there are similar things that I would say this generation probably looks for. You know, study after study, we see that the consistent factor that millennials look for in a career or a job opportunity is actually the opportunity for career growth. And because new innovative ideas are so encouraged and celebrated in the insurance industry, actually particularly in the captive insurance industry, I think that is totally something that we should be emphasizing. I think showcasing those opportunities where millennials can make a difference, their opinions are valued and are listened to, can play a huge part in recruiting and retaining the talent from the next generation. I think a great example of this actually would be, having participated in SECA's Next Gen Task Force Committee. It actually, we take a group of young professionals, their opinions, and you voice them to the SECA board. SECA has gone so far to even put a seat on the board for a Next Gen, task force member, which I think is amazing because it really does feel like, you're being listened to, and similarly, the industry conferences have followed. Young professionals are given the opportunity to be a part of the planning of, tracks within that are geared to the interests of young professionals during the conferences. They are given opportunities to speak, on panels and to speak on and expand their growth and professional development. I think this really helps in different avenues to make this next generation feel included and then to keep that young talent within the industry.
So Karen, that was really, really well thought out to tell the listeners what you feel is important to attract you and keep you as millennials speaking from a committee. And Erin actually is on that committee, and she was actually appointed to our SECA board as a non-voting member, but to provide input, to provide insight coming from your group to the board. And I'm really excited that you guys are excited that we did that. That's very exciting. When you say we have to find you, where do you expect us to find you when we're recruiting? Is it just at the college level? What about those folks that aren't in college? Where do we find you guys?
I think it can be just as Anjanette had mentioned even earlier than that. I don't think it needs to be at college, at the college fairs, where I guess bigger insurance companies would technically go or be invited to speak. I actually think sometimes there's too much noise. There's a lot going on. College students tend to be like, ooh, distracted very easily. And it's hard to actually get them to focus like, hey, come and listen to my story. I think, those one-on-one times where maybe, you have a guest speaker, maybe your professor has kind of the foresight to see, well, I teach a class that it could even be related to, I don't know, it could be related to any facet, to be honest, to any profession, but they have kind of the outlook to say, well, I would like to have guest speakers from different and various industries come and speak to the students. I feel like that allows students maybe to be a little bit less intimidated, to go and even ask questions later on, to hear the story personally, to be able to relate to it, to be able to then go off on their own and maybe even seek internships regarding or related to that same industry. So I do actually think that it could happen way early. So things like in high school, I would say it's fine to have a guest speaker. I think that would actually be a great opportunity for students to be able to hear those stories one-on-one.
Okay, great input. Erin, good morning. Thank you so much for being here today. I want to bring you in as well, and I want you to talk a little bit about that supporting of education and creating opportunities for women in leadership, but also how you envision your seat on the board of SECA, and I think you'll be attending your first meeting here pretty soon.
Yes, thank you. So I guess starting with the education piece and opportunities for women already in the industry, we're very fortunate to have so many experienced professionals already in the industry, and not just experience, but wanting to share their knowledge with the next generation. I think Karen and I have both seen that in full force on the Next Gen Task Force and now committee, that there is so much support from those experienced professionals to create these opportunities, and they just don't necessarily know how to do that, or you know, trying to find that match between the next gen and the experienced professionals. So I guess one of the things I wanted to talk about here is just how important mentorship is. SICA, like you mentioned, Renee, already has a really positive mentorship program where if a next gen or a young professionals company doesn't necessarily have that mentorship program in place, they can go to SICA's mentorship program, sign up, and be paired up with someone in the industry to help them and show them what the industry has to offer. And I think that's something I'm really passionate about, because recurring theme, like Karen was talking about, I'm one of those people that kind of fell into the industry and now wouldn't ever think of leaving. And when I joined my firm as an experienced auditor, but without really any captive insurance knowledge, I had some really great mentors that showed me some educational tools and where the opportunities were, and then pushed me to go do those things and seek out those things. So I had a mentor that showed me the ICCIE ACI program, and I went and did that, and it was a great baseline knowledge for me to come into the industry, have that under my belt, and then see what other opportunities the industry had to offer. So I just think that's really important, and I continue to, as I grow my network, seek out mentors within the industry. And I think going to my now board position on SICA, that's just another way that I'm so excited to see these experienced professionals in action, and understanding that they want to hear from my perspective too. There's so much mutual learning going on there. And that just helps us to grow. I can bring that back to SICA's Next Gen committee. We can have conversations about it, and it's a great two-way street of communication.
That's wonderful. Lauren, can you show us how the polling is going? For those that have just joined us, I'd like to have you hop on to slido.com and type in captive virtual, and great, we have 40 votes. So how long have you been working in the captive industry sector? 5 to 10 years, 38%. So these folks are looking to hear from you, specifically how to attract the next generation. Lauren, can we see the next question that we have? And I'm hoping everybody can participate. This is really key for SICA and for those listening today. When recruiting new captive professionals, how much experience do you look for? We've got, it looks like some level of experience in commercial insurance is our top leader, 53%. That actually surprises me. I think that a lot of providers will teach you on the job, and you don't have to have an advanced degree to come into the industry. And I do want to make sure people understand that. Also, I believe that the ICCIE global education arm that supports this industry with classes every single year, continuing education, ongoing all year long, shows you the way on how to do things that maybe even your peers where in your workplace haven't even learned yet. Shruti, I'd like to have you talk to us about how you think we can position captive insurance to your generation as progressive and equal opportunity industry globally. I know that's a big question, but I know that you have some really excellent thoughts about it. Would you share?
Sure. Thanks, Renee. So, I mean, I think that captive insurance industry has all the necessary elements that's needed for a progressive, to establish itself as a progressive and the equal opportunity industry, because starting with the fact that it does not have the problems that some of the other industries or in other professions have, where one can say that, oh, there are not enough females taking up so and so subjects at the university, at school level. Oh, there are not enough women taking up such and such roles. There are no inhibitions in this industry to start with, because here the key of recruiting in this industry is on aptitude. That's the key. And it's an all-inclusive industry which kind of welcomes people from all the different backgrounds and educational background, point of views, skill sets which are mostly transferable. So those kind of initial entry barrier, they are very low here. So I think that kinds of gives it a head start in terms of being progressive and equal opportunity. And the very definition of captive industry is it celebrates the differences. Nobody tries to find what similarity you have with them. Everybody cherishes that you bring another point of view on the table. They want you to have your opinion. They want you to think about things differently. So diversity is kind of, as you can say, it's the root of this for this industry to thrive. So I personally, my point of view would be, this is the most equal opportunity industry itself. And
I would have to agree. Exactly. Now, you have an engineering background.
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, a very
and
strong
so,
engineering background. So.
Yes. And how did you fall into the industry?
So as I think everyone on the panel has echoed, it was mentors and it was people who were guiding me. And the mentors were not necessarily from an engineering background itself. Funny enough, they were again with engineering experience of 25 plus years. But of course, they were exposed to this industry and they knew how exciting and interesting this could go. So my mentor opened the door for me, just saying, you know what, you seem to have a knack for this. Why don't you go and try this? So it just started with, oh, let me see what it's there. Oh, but it's an insurance, as I think Engine had said in the beginning, that it gives an impression of being a boring paperwork industry. But soon when I just scratched the surface, I was so excited with the kind of opportunities it presented itself, trying to combine technology with knowledge of finance, strategy, and everything that one can imagine. So
and I think we can say that you can teach an engineer insurance, but you can't teach an insurance person engineering, right?
Yes.
So we're lucky to have you. You said that to me. You're very wise. Yeah. So that's awesome. So Karen and Anjanette, talk to us about recognizing and celebrating talent in the industry. How do you make sure that the talent that we recruit and work really hard and spend a lot of dollars to get them here, how do we keep them here? Karen, chime in and tell us, how do we keep you here? How do you not wander off to a different industry that might be trying to lure you as well?
Well, actually, I'm the really lucky recipient, I would have to say, of one of actually multiple awards because of industry supporters and advocates for the next generation of talent. I believe I know Anjanette sits on the Amplify Women committee, who really helps to create opportunities for women to become champions and advocates for one another and really support each other's ideas and efforts, and ultimately recognize and honor other women, really helping to influence their careers in positive ways. So I think part of it is being a young professional. I'm elated to be part of an industry that provides, the opportunity to expand the network of intelligent professionals, particularly female professionals, to look up to and to seek guidance from, and as Erin mentioned, mentorship from, as I continue to build my own career, knowing that, hey, there are people there that are truly supporting me. And then similarly, feeling encouraged, or, by the tenured, seasoned professionals that, were on judging panels or nominated me and wanted to recognize and honor kind of the work that I've been doing or I had accomplished thus far. It definitely gave me a sense of confidence that, I'm on the right path, and that, there are these champions in the industry that are willing to continue to support my growth. So I think, hey, like, if I've got these people, like, part of my family, I guess, part of my pack, I guess you could say, like, why would I leave? Like, this is probably the greatest opportunity to continue growing and to learn more and more every day. So I don't plan on going anywhere, because there's so much in the sponge for me to soak up. Like, I feel challenged every single day. So
Great. And Jeanette, can you chime in on this here and tell us how you've managed to pull this off and keep people involved and recognized?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you touched early on Sika and a lot of their initiatives. The rest of the panel here is very involved in Next Gen, and Sika really led the charge on that effort and the mentoring program. And then this last year, as Karen, you mentioned, Amplify Women came to fruition, and really taking pause and saying, look, I think particularly as women, we have a tendency to get so involved in the day-to-day that we forget to toot our own horn sometimes. And so I think the goal of Amplify Women is, well, if I don't have the time, or I'm not comfortable in my own skin enough to recognize the value I bring to this industry, let's help nudge people and as Karen touched on, acknowledge their contributions and values that they bring to the table. And I think sometimes we're our own worst enemies in that regard. And I tend to think it's I hate to say it, as women, I think we tend to fall in that category of, I'm too busy. I don't have time to stop and celebrate my accomplishments. And I think we have to do that sometimes. And I think it's also the thing, that naturally keeps us engaged when somebody acknowledges that you're doing a good job, or they recognize what you do bring to the equation. That's psychologically what keeps us in this game, right? And I just don't think that we stop enough to celebrate our own contributions. And so with Amplify Women, as we've touched on, our goal is to bring that visibility out into the spotlight a little bit more, and help people recognize what they do bring. And where they may not recognize that, say, hey, I mean, we have a lot of amazing talent from next gen all the way up to those of us that have been in the industry for a long time and been trailblazers, yourself included, Renee. And I think, we need to acknowledge that in a different way, and bring that visibility to the equation. Our goals with Amplify Women are to really, as a committee, get together and say, how can we do that? There's some really simple ways of making sure that we're bringing women into the awards realm with greater frequency, and getting people nominated to where they stand a chance at getting that recognition. So that's one way. The other way is visibility at conferences. You touched early on about the amazing achievement that Sika had with the conference this year, that next year I think we're going to surpass in terms of having more than 40% of our panelists being women. And I think not just women, but diverse, not just from an age perspective and a male-female perspective, but just diverse from different perspectives, different experiences. And I think Sika exemplifies making sure that happens, and we actually see that in action. And then lastly, with Amplify Women, we have a lot of great captive review being one of them, great publications and media participants in this industry that keep us all connected and informed as to what's going on out there in the industry. And I think we just need to do a better job of making sure that when those opportunities come to chime in and weigh in on a particular issue, that we're pushing women forward to step out into that limelight and say, hey, I am an expert in this industry. I have counterparts, but they're always the ones that are at the forefront. And it's just, I think for a lot of us, not in our nature, or we just don't stop long enough to recognize we have a lot to contribute and have our voices heard. And Amplify Women's goals are to help us learn how to do that, or in some cases, push some of us out into the middle of the stage and say, hey, you've done a great job, and we see that. and recognize it. And you touched on earlier, Karen, is one example of where we definitely recognize that very early on, and as a committee, we've nominated her for an award that she, and I'll let you expand on it, Karen, but she was duly recognized, and we were quite happy that she achieved what we thought she had achieved, and as the industry recognized that. But it's just one example of the little steps that we're taking to try to move things forward in that regard.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. You know, we've really never talked about this. You guys are cracking the net open and you're just putting it all out there. I appreciate it. We've just really never talked about this stuff. Erin, how do you think we can do a better job positioning the industry? If you put yourself back 10 years when you were just beginning your career, how we could have attracted you, where we could have found you, and how we can do a better job going forward with voices like you.
Sure. Yeah. So, and I'll speak to, you know, I think a lot of times the task of recruiting new talent and going out to colleges and universities falls to the more experienced professionals. But, you know, as we heard from Karen earlier, I think that looking to the newer professionals, the next generation, they have a lot of unique and interesting perspectives, and they have contacts and relationships that are pretty solid and built with these universities. They know the programs that are in place currently at the universities, you know, more closely because they were just there. So giving those professionals a voice in how to do this and go to the universities or other places, if universities isn't where we should be focusing, is really important. And so one of the things that we've been doing with the Next Gen Committee is thinking about that, and how can we partner with universities and colleges better, try to bridge that gap there. And I think that a couple of things Karen actually mentioned before, you know, just having someone who is an alumni of a school or partnering with the school go into business classes or accounting classes or whatever it might be, and educate the students and the university really on what risk management is, what captive insurance is. There are so few schools that have dedicated risk management programs even today, that it really is an education. And I've found, I've done this a couple of times with local schools in Vermont, you know, asking professors for 10 to 15 minutes to talk to the students about what insurance is and what a sustainable, solid career this is right in their local geography is always welcomed. They always say, yeah, sure, come in and talk to us. They love that. So, you know, building the alumni group and partnering with some schools, I think is really important to just let people know what is out there and what insurance is. The other thing is, you know, trying to find new and unique ways to host internship type programs. I think that's where a lot of students find their first employer is something that we've been discussing in the Next Gen Committee, and how to give potential students a really unique experience of seeing a lot of different service providers and captive insurance companies within the industry, because our industry is so diverse with different aspects. It's something that we've thought of that may be a great way to attract new talent that may not even know what we are, what we do, or how innovative and creative this career can be.
I think to add to what Erin was saying, the key to all of this is openness and your willingness to share with your alma mater, with your local school, with your local communities. And what this to start with, and then to round it up, is to give individuals a benefit of doubt and to trust their aptitude, give them a chance. At least that would be my story, that I was given chances, people had trusted me, and usually when you trust them, they tend to not disappoint you. So that would be another way to start when you recruit people.
That's great input, guys. Right off the right off the street, so to say. We appreciate this so much. So we're getting close to our time here. You guys have been great this morning. I'd like to give each of you about a minute, minute and a half to just talk to us about, from your perspective, from your job, from your age group, from your experience, whether you're new or you've been here a long time, each of your perspective on where you think the industry is going in the next 5 to 10 years. Karen?
So speaking from probably the newer panelist on this panel, in terms of, being years in the industry, I would say I'm really excited to see where the industry is going and attracting more talent as we continue to educate and find better ways and avenues to educate the new wave of young professionals and what there is to offer within captive insurance. I think, having the committees, as we have already touched upon, like Next Gen and like Amplify Women, will assist in making, new professionals feel a little less intimidated going in, asking questions, and getting involved, and, getting to know people and building relationships within the industry that really keep you there. Because as Erin had mentioned, I've never been in an industry where people were so willing to pass on their knowledge and to grow the next generation. So I wouldn't discount seeing more, women involved, more young professionals. I think there's so much other growing that will be happening with everything happening with, InsurTech and, technology coming into play. And I think that is all very, very exciting stuff. So I only see all positive going forward.
That's great news. That's awesome. That makes us happy. And Jeanette, what are your thoughts?
Well, Karen, I think, hit on over the next 5 to 10 years, and I think the lives that we're living right now, this experience with the pandemic, really foretells, I think, what the future holds for us in this industry and across the board in terms of how we're doing business. It's, to me, rooted in technology, and this current experience, I think, has accelerated and given us a glimpse into how we might be doing things differently with technology. I think FinTech, InsurTech, we see it out there every day. And I think it's going to be coming a lot quicker and a lot faster, I think, because of what we're experiencing right now. The captive industry is at the forefront of dealing with this pandemic and coming up with innovative ways, real time, on how to deal with that. And I think kind of stepping back from that, this industry has recognized that with greater diversity comes some actual evidence and studies, much better results. When you look at the studies, and we've talked about this on some of our calls, Renee, before, over 30% greater profitability where you have a much more diverse participation across the board, any metric you can measure that by, and also studies that demonstrate that you're far more innovative than your competitors when you're more diverse in a much quicker way. And we're seeing that right now. My counterparts on this panel are living that every day, putting these programs together and putting it into action. And so I'm really excited about what the future holds for us. And I think SECA as an association and the committees for Next Gen and Amplify Women are only going to help support those initiatives to continue showing the world what an exciting place it is to be in the captive industry.
Well, that means a lot to us, hearing that from you, that we have a bright future. I happen to agree. Erin, we have about 1 minute. Share with us.
Sure. I won't rehash everything Karen and Jeanette said. I completely agree. But, I think first and foremost, we are an industry that finds solutions to problems. So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, like they both said, this industry is on the forefront of a lot. And I think that we're going to continue to, bring in diverse opinions that will help to solve solutions that to problems that we don't even know exist right now. So I would agree. I think there's a lot of positive in the next 5 to 10 years as the industry continues to grow and thrive.
Yes. Trudy?
So again, I think that the outlook in the next 5 to 10 years is very positive for the captive industry, and one sees it establishing itself as the leader in the in the domain of equal opportunity, attracting some very smart people from diverse background, and building and kind of blurring the boundaries between the different skill sets required for a job, as one says that you need to have to get into certain roles. So establishing itself in one of the leaders of and setting an example for the other industries. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Lauren and the team there at Captive Review, we sure appreciate you putting on the symposiums, and today we've had a really nice time. I think we're going to put some questions up. We're going to ask all the participants to throw up some questions, and Lauren and Megan are going to get those up. I just want to say that before we hop into these questions that, you know, a problem is always a chance to do your very best. And we have no shortage of problems in terms of risk and new things that have been coming our way, being thrown at us as business owners, as risk managers. The entire world literally is on its tilt today, this very day, with COVID-19. And these are very uncertain times, and leadership is taking on a whole new meaning. Even experienced female leaders are finding themselves challenged in entirely new ways. And really, this is a time to shine. I think that these problems will allow us to do our best. The name of the game is how do you keep your calm in high stress situations? And I think all of you do that really well. Leading a team with uncertainty is not easy. And I know all the listeners would agree with that is not easy. It's not easy to be a role model. Really, nobody sets out to be a role model. They just do what they do well. And if they do it really well, then people tend to pay attention and say, I'd like to learn from that. I hope that our younger generation agrees with that. Right now, you know, top professional women are getting caught up in the success means sacrifice. And I honestly, Lauren, think that that's an entirely different session that we could offer on, you know, simple, sustainable approaches that gives you control over your career, even in times of chaos in the, you know, risk world. And again, that's an entirely different session. But I think that we need to ask all leadership right now, Sika on down, to lean in and be responsible. Do it with calmness, do it with confidence. Don't topple your personnel. Keep them in a state of confidence and in this very trying time. Balance is important. We always are all learning, and I think you would agree. So, you know, we have the responsibility to make this industry progressive. And a couple of things that I took away from this was that we all need to spend time in our local communities in where we live, and reach out to school teachers, reach out to professionals, reach out to professors, reach out to the industry colleges and ask them. So we can bring a more diverse group of folks into the industry and pique their interest, frankly. And I think those are all huge takeaways that nobody had before we started this session today. I see some questions coming up. It looks like the top question is, how do you better communicate in simple words to attract a larger audience? After all, today, the biggest thing going is a risk event. That's true. Who'd like to chime in on that? Anybody have thoughts?
I can start with that one. And, you know, when I saw that question come through, the first thing that came to my mind is, you know, just telling the stories. Telling the stories of when it's gone right and how you've achieved great things in the industry as you're going is really the way to show a larger audience what the world of captives is and what we're capable of.
You know, guys, I thank you, Erin, so much. I'm right there with you. I do see a question here. How can we get more panels to have more women on them? The folks that asked this question says that so many feel male heavy. And Dan Toll and his team and the board and his committees, and particularly his conference committee, has really knocked it out of the park and taken this with a tight grip and said, exactly, we're going to do that. So I'd like that folks that answered that asked that question, to look at the Sika website and to learn more about how we're doing that. As at the beginning, we had said that we have over 40% of our panels this year, which is an all-time knock it out of the park, record-breaking goal, and they did it. And they didn't just pick any women in the industry and say, hey, get on a panel so we can count the number. They really went out and sought the top experts, recognized them, and said, would you speak about a particular topic? They really did an incredible job. And we didn't get to meet, but they're going to do it online. So thank you for that question. That was really great. We have a question. How do you better communicate in simple words to attract a larger audience to the world of captives? After all, the biggest thing today is risk. Guys, I think we've touched on that a little bit here today. I have another question. Who was it that triggered you to talk more publicly about diversity? Who made you come forward? It feels overwhelming sometimes. Karen,
I can jump in on that, and I'm going to put Karen on the spot actually, because I've told this story, but I've been in the industry a long time, and I participated on the periphery. I went to the conferences, I listened in, but I never got actively engaged. And it was a couple of years ago, maybe it was a little more than that, when SECA really got into their Next Gen initiatives, and they gave Karen the Next Gen Award. And it was so striking to me that, this young person, so dynamic, and what she was bringing to the industry, it was really inspiring to me. And I've shared it. We talk about mentoring. And I think we have this perception that mentoring occurs from the top to the bottom, from the old to the new, or the young. And that's absolutely not the case. We need to break those stereotypes and think differently. And I think the next generation, the diversity in our industry, holds the answers for us. We just have to be willing to step in. For me, it was a fear thing. I had to step out of my fear of getting involved and maybe being in the spotlight. And I approached Dan and I said, Dan, that inspired me. Karen inspired me. That's like, wow, that's our future. And what can I do? What can I do to get involved? And that was a hurdle for me. I had to overcome that fear. But we're surrounded by Karens. You guys are out there. And I would encourage you, if you have fear of getting involved, take a chance, approach somebody one-on-one and just say, hey, tell me your story. How can I do this? And it doesn't have to be a real formal, long, intensive mentoring thing. It could be something really simple, like having a coffee once in a while and talking about issues.
Just as simple as that. Thank you so much. I think that's wise and sage. And interestingly enough, the younger generation says that we excite them, and we're telling them that they excite us. So I think we have a win-win situation there, and we have to keep the energy up. And I know I've got the energy, and I know you guys do. So we can certainly share that forward and to do our best. I also really encourage the listeners to get involved and support these initiatives. And SECA is glad to help further these with the state associations as well. And it's a great time. We're in a great place in the captive industry. I'll tell you right now, I'm already working on a section for 2021 SECA, how my captive saved my business. I think that there will be no more higher impact on people needing captives than today, as they realize that they are uninsured in many, many things, that they were sleeping soundly at night thinking that they were insured when they had that 400-page policy in front of them. And today they're finding out that their claims are being denied, their business interruptions being denied. There's a lot of problems out there, and we've got a lot of leadership to solve it, and we're willing to do the work, right, guys?
That's right.
I know you are. Well, thank you so much to Captive Review and the virtual symposiums and all the questions and all the listeners. You guys have been great today. I want to remind everybody that for all of the great information that was shared here today, there was a couple of things, several takeaways, and maybe we'll write a little recap and post it online later. But it's a great time for SECA to be supporting us. We're thankful to them. And we are thankful for ICCIE for supporting us. And everybody is converting to virtual learning so we can continue to get our continuing education credits, and that's critical. A lot of people were panicking, and we're going to find ways to network and be together, such as today, through folks like Captive Review, who keep us together as a community. So I really want to thank Captive Review for all they're doing to keep us together as a community. This concludes our session today. I'd like to toss it back to Lauren, and I wish everybody a good summer, and please be safe out there. Thank you guys for all your hard work. Lauren?
Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much. And thank you so much for that wonderful session. I'm sure so many people would have gotten so much of that from that. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in as well. And just a reminder that our next virtual symposium is on next Tuesday, which is on captives and healthcare. We also have a whole bunch that are on our website, so you can look forward and have a look at what's coming up. We also have our US Virtual Captive Summit, which has launched, which will be a half-day online event, and it's free for all captive owners and prospective captive owners. We've got a whole bunch of great people speaking at that as well, so please get in touch if you're interested. We would love to see you there. But once again, thank you to our fantastic panel. I'm sure everyone had a lot that they got out of that. I know I did. It was wonderful to hear you all speak. So thank you, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks, Lauren and Megan.
Thank you.
Bye.